This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. My guest today is Jacques Swanepoel. Jacques is the CTO at Seal Storage Technology, which is a cloud storage endeavor. And well, looking forward to learning all about Seal today. I can see they're working with people like Seagate, Oracle, Cisco, and more. Welcome to the show, Jacques.
Thank you, Andy. It's nice to be here.
Nice to have you here, Jacques. Let's do what we do at the beginning of the show. Just love to learn a little bit about your good self. Please just give us a little snapshot of who you are and what you've been doing in the lead up to being CTO at Seal.
Certainly. And I think if you actually go through my history and exactly how I got involved with the platform, it's actually a really significant story for what we're trying to do in the platform. So it is not just like a generic background and, oh, no, I'm doing this. It's actually very insightful for why exactly in the platforms we are using. So let me dive into it. First part of my career, I spent as a software engineer, worked a lot of systems and, got some patents as well that I've developed in backup software over the years. And last couple of years, I figured, a bit of an entrepreneur by background, and I want to get more into the business side of things. So still, heavily leveraging my technical capability, but, have some more direct control over technologies and things that do get deployed, right? And so I've been running my own companies and data centers and cloud services for the last, probably 20 years. And again, with the kind of backup software that I've worked in, learned firsthand experience, like all the issues customers run into as far as, recovering their data, making sure they've recovered the right data, legal hold scenarios, like how do we prove that we've recovered exactly the original version of the data. All those challenges I've kind of seen firsthand. And then probably around 2018 is where I kind of started looking around the ecosystem. Blockchain was definitely taking off strong by then. But for me personally, proof of work was never that interesting, I would say. And, kind of working on cloud backups, cloud storage, definitely the theme there is storage. So I'm kind of scratching my head and say, like, if you can take blockchain and you combine it with storage, now you have something interesting to tell. And so, again, put on my business hat, entrepreneur kind of skill set, technology-ist background, and start picking apart all the different blockchain technologies out there that's focused on storage. There's definitely quite a few at the time, and started looking each one, testing it, trying it out. And I kind of from all the ones I've looked at, that's really where I kind of discovered Filecoin through that process, and really got excited for exactly when I see like how it's working, and then again from like a business entrepreneur perspective, like something that I can actually scale up, provide some business services around it. For Filecoin by far was the only platform that I saw that kind of gave all those capabilities that I was looking for. So that's kind of like really important for my background to appreciate. It's not just like, hey, I wanted to do some stuff in storage. No, I actually tested like all the storage blockchains out there, and Filecoin is the one that's kind of meets all the requirements that we want to do for a kind of commercializing Web3 storage for customers.
Sure. And look, Jacques, it's been a while since I've had anyone on either from Filecoin or really the kind of decentralized storage space. So maybe it'd be good if you could just give us, refresh my understanding, refresh the listeners' understanding, just briefly make the case for Filecoin as a protocol and, decentralized cloud storage. What are the advantages that offers?
Certainly. And it's also like, the platform definitely has evolved, some new features and functionality being introduced the last little while, but at a high level. It is a Web3 decentralized storage mechanism, but with some very specific attributes, which is exactly some of the features I was looking for to be able to kind of bring Web3 solutions to enterprises. The one kind of key characteristic that it has versus some other platforms where it just randomly distributes the data to any number of random nodes across the planet. With Filecoin, like at the lowest sector level, you actually have as the kind of storage provider have control. Like think of it as like a hard drive or a storage server with a RAID controller, and you kind of have control over which hard drives you're actually writing data to. In a similar way with Filecoin at the sector level, you kind of have control as to where the data is getting distributed to on the network, which is quite important for enterprises because some of them, for legal requirements and government controls, they can't send their data just anywhere on the planet. They need to know exactly where their data is, but they still want to have that effect of, well, I want to be able to send multiple copies so that I do have redundancies. So that's kind of the key thing, is right. You still want to have control, but you still want to have adequate redundancies, because the one key metric that you want to achieve is like, with some of the large multi-cloud like Facebook, last year had a major outage again. You don't want to get caught up, like if they make a change in their core network and it takes down the whole entire infrastructure, like how do you kind of work around that? And the way to do that is with decentralized storage. And that's what Filecoin offers. There's multiple SPs, each of them, they have their own network, their own capabilities, and customers kind of like, think of it like, kind of like torrent, but not really. But it's still, all the networks are independent is kind of the point there. But at the lowest level, you do have to have control as to where the data gets written to. And then recently, what's kind of some of the major milestones that's been achieved, they've now introduced a Filecoin virtual machine as well, and it's going to be Ethereum contracts compatible. So I think that's going to be quite significant as far as helping adoption on the network. And if you want to do store an NFT on the network, you no longer have to go to Ethereum to write the contract and then go put the storage on Filecoin. Now with the FEM, you can actually do all of that in one spot, which is certainly going to even enhance the capability on the platform. Yeah,
got it. Thank you, Jacques. I think it'd also be useful to talk through some of the, I suppose they're case studies, but I can see you guys talk about this. There's links on your website. So one is a partnership that you guys have with the Atlas experiment at CERN, and they are the people behind what's it called? The Large Hadron Collider, right? Which of course is, well, what is the Hadron Collider all about? It's really about doing some really intense physics experiments, looking for missing particles that can kind of fill in the gaps as to really our understanding of the laws in physics and how the universe might work. Who knows? Something could go wrong. They could open a wormhole into multiple other dimensions at any time. It's quite out there stuff, but let's bring it back a bit. What is the relationship between SEAL and the Atlas experiment at CERN, Jacques?
No, certainly. And people may not be aware, but the Large Hadron Collider, when the experiments do run, and Atlas is one of the experiments on the network, when the system's up and running, it generates up to like 1 petabyte worth of information every second. So that's a lot of data that needs to be stored when they do run an experiment. And actually, most of the data they actually end up throwing away because they literally cannot store it. So they kind of cherry pick certain signals they're looking for, and then they store that data, and then they go start digging deeper for what can they discover in the data set that they do have. So obviously their main problem is they have so much data, they don't know what to do with it. And with kind of the service that we're offering at the moment is, with Filecoin, kind of the block rewards we're getting on the network for us as a storage provider helps us subsidize the cost of the infrastructure. Because with like a proof of work network, you basically end up like wasting a lot of the power and stuff that gets generated off the network. So one of the key things with Filecoin is, because it's based on storage, you can actually use that storage and also for storing useful data. And so but you kind of get it at a heavy subsidized capability, which then now for us allows us to go to customers and actually offer them storage at a significant discount on the solution. A lot of customers at the moment, we're also doing proof of concepts at the moment. So basically doing it at no cost, so they can kind of integrate with the network, see how it works, and all of those good things. The other benefit from the customer's perspective is, us as a storage provider, again, our goal is to commercialize the technology and accelerate the adoption of it with customers. So we essentially take away or make it transparent to the customer as far as that, there's actually blockchain and wallets and all those complicated stuff in the background. The only thing the customer sees is storage and they can use it. And they have a smaller invoice to pay, which is what they really care about. But they don't need to worry about like, oh, how do I have to set up all the systems? How do I configure the blockchain, set up all the wallets? They don't have to deal with any of that functionality. And then at the end of the day, so it's kind of a win-win for both sides. We're looking for storage because that's kind of how we drive consensus on the network. The more storage we have, the more consensus we have. And, scientific institutions like CERN just have so much storage, they don't know what to do with it. Or data that they want to store. And so it's a win-win for both sides.
Yeah, of course. And I suppose for, really interesting and important research by, organizations like CERN, it's important for them to future-proof their data, if you like, right, Jacques? So you can imagine, 50 years from now, it'd be very important for them if they're making some critical discoveries of new dimensions, let's say, 30, 40, 50 years from now, but they need to have look back in the data from, say, 2020 or 2022, where we are now. They want to make sure that that data is immutable, verifiable, and of course that it can be stored with, future-proof redundancy so they can access it. And that's essentially what you guys are enabling for them, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's one of the key attributes of the Filecoin ecosystem is, from the customer's perspective is, it provides all that proof that, hey, this is the original version of the data that was written on this date in this format. So especially for, CERN and Atlas, where, if they discover something, they want to be able to go back and, preserve their bragging record. Because sometimes they collect the data, they have to run the experiments, do the analysis. It could be years before they actually, discover what they're looking for within the data. But then to be able to go back and say, like, look, we actually, like, it was actually, the experiment was run on this date and here's the original data set. To prove that, it wasn't changed in some way or anything like that. So it's, to have that, cryptographic signatures proving that the data is intact is very important. And other organizations as well, kind of you think of like legal hold and all of those requirements as well. But, for scientific institutions, for sure, to be able to prove that, this data was discovered on this date and time, it's very important.
It is very important. So if we've established that it's very important to have that data sovereignty, if you like, across generations, critically important. But it's also important for individuals, right? So you've talked about seal storage technology and enterprise use. Is it usable at the individual level as well, Jacques?
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, one of the things that's kind of certainly taken off recently is, as a good example, is NFTs. And most of the NFTs are typically owned by an individual person. And, in the early days, there was kind of a bit of challenges for exactly where those NFTs are stored. And I think a few of them even got lost. But nowadays, people are transitioning to a more secure platform. And, Filecoin is certainly one of the premier platforms where you can actually store NFTs very reliable. So from that perspective, it is very important and useful to even end users.
Yeah, absolutely. And funnily enough, I was just looking through your website again, and you guys again, you seem to be working with is it UC Berkeley? And again, it's funny how these physics experiments creep back into the conversation. Yeah, it's called the UC Berkeley Underground Physics Group, which, man, that's a great name. They sound like the nefarious bad guy organization in a James Bond movie. UC Berkeley Underground Physics Group, but they've partnered with Seal Storage, you guys, because they need, of course, some decentralized cloud storage for neutrino research data supporting the development of novel detection technology. Man, this is great stuff. So what are they doing? They are looking for neutrinos which originate from some of the most mind-bending elements of the universe: black holes, exploding stars, and of course, the Big Bang, the beginning of everything. Fascinating stuff. So I guess it's the same thing as what you're doing with CERN. You're just helping these guys out with their incredible data as they go searching for neutrinos.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in their case specifically, what was attractive for them is the kind of capability that we can store multiple copies of the data on the network. Again, at a heavily subsidized cost, and kind of that redundancy at a reduced cost was certainly a significant functionality that they were looking for. On top of all the other features, as far as again having cryptographic proof for when the data was generated, having it stored. And also what we're doing is working with some of their partners where they can have access to the data and retrieve it through our network. So those kind of attributes really made it useful for them.
Yeah, nice. And just, you've talked about how proof of work was never interesting to you, and we understand that proof of work is not the right consensus mechanism for something like this. Talk about then the seal solution and how that data is stored in centers powered by renewable energy. There's a dashboard. Proof of impact. What is proof of impact, Jacques?
Yeah, so one of the things we're doing at Seal, as being one of the major storage providers on the network, and kind of the key thing that Filecoin also did there is, instead of using the terms like mining for storage or any of those terms, we are actually storage providers on the network that we're providing a service, and then kind of depending on which storage provider you're working with. Seal ourselves, we have data centers, for example, in Quebec, Montreal, where it's the whole Quebec province is actually powered by hydro. And we also have data centers, for example, in Las Vegas, where there's a significant amount of solar power being used in the facility. As well as the specific data centers we're in have like over 200 patents as far as making data centers, if you think about it, a data center, like how complicated can it be? It's like you plug in power, you put in a fan, you keep the server cold, right? But the one provider we're working with, they have like over 200 patents on data center processes and how to make it efficient. And all those things are really important when you want to drive a more green, more ESG friendly discussion, right, with customers. So that's kind of like the other angle of what we're doing is, it's like, we really want to make sure that this is, as far as blockchain goes and, ESG perspective. And I think the other day we did some math and, kind of back on the envelope calculations is on a like per transaction, like normalized to a per transaction cost or impact. Filecoin is about 1,000 times less impactful on the environment than Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. It wouldn't be hard, I guess. Interesting thoughts, Jacques. Can you give us some perspective on, we've talked about these physics projects that are partnering with you, and there'll be a number of other industries that are also partnering with you, and of course other people using Filecoin. But there are just thousands, if not millions, of these enterprise clients all around the world who have these large data sets and will be using the likes of AWS and Google and so on at the moment. How likely and how fast do you see these enterprises moving to a decentralized solution such as Filecoin or Seal?
Yeah, so for a lot of the enterprises, kind of one of the key attributes for them are beyond just accessibility to the data, making sure not keeping all your eggs in one basket, as that saying goes. Beyond that is it's literally the cost, right? With a lot of the larger cloud providers is that kind of ongoing monthly cost that you have to pay for storing the data at a higher rate, as well. Normally, kind of the business models, especially on the kind of Glacier side services that the large cloud providers offer, is they charge a significant cost on the actual retrievals, because on the back end, what not a lot of people are aware is the Glacier type services, although it's like, hey, it's in the cloud, I'm uploading my data to the cloud. few enterprises or users actually understand or appreciate that it's still just like regular tape that's being used to store the data by the large cloud providers. But with something like Filecoin, because every 24 hours there's a proof of spacetime event that occurs and then verifies the data that's on disk. So by definition, we have to keep on storing data on disk so that we can prove that it's there, and that's a major component of the consensus mechanism on the network. So the customer gets both a more reliable, more readily accessible service at a reduced cost. And those are kind of the key attributes that's really driving enterprise adoption.
Yeah, just that's fascinating, Jacques. Clarify what you mean when you mean that the kind of existing cloud storage services, and I assume you're talking about the big ones that people will know, like Google and AWS. But what do you mean when you say a lot of them are just storing the data on tape and then accessing it that way?
Yeah, so it's typically the Glacier style services that Azure and Amazon has, and I think Google has a similar option, but I think they call it something else. But it is the Glacier style services, and for them to be able to offer the low costs that they do offer to customers, it has to go to tape. That's the and then retrieval times. That's why you'll see they even post on the web. If you do transition your data to a Glacier service, it's normally 24 hours, 48 hours to be able to retrieve your data. So by that, you can kind of understand that it's clearly tape that they are using in the backend. And there's lots of pictures and stuff online. You can find that tape libraries and things that they do run in their data centers.
Yeah, got it. Doesn't sound that safe. I mean, what do they have like?
Well, how many do you still have VH? Yeah, do you still have VH8 tapes at home? Have you seen how that degrades over time?
Well, exactly. And, yeah, it doesn't seem like a very contemporary storage solution. But I guess we're kind of it speaks to the sort of the idea that we're kind of still transitioning, right, Jacques? Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's different technologies out there, offering different solutions and price points to customers, and they try to use the best service for the cost. For us, we feel Filecoin is going to be a more premium solution at an even lower cost. So that's certainly going to be two key attributes as far as driving significant and fast adoption by enterprises.
Very nice. All right, let's finish off this part of the podcast then, Jacques. For anyone listening who thinks, man, I'm going to go out and perhaps smash some atoms together and search for the missing particles, and I've got all this data. I've got lots of big data sets, and I want to store them. I want them to be immutable into the future. I prefer they weren't just stored on a dodgy tape somewhere in a warehouse that could burn down, or who knows what could happen to it. If that is the case, where should I go? What should I do if I want to look more into seal storage as a solution?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, our website is certainly a good place to kind of start. We do have a contact us form as well on our website, and I think our primary email is there as well. That's kind of the best way to reach us. I mean, we are distributed. Our company is distributed as well. I mean, we have guys in New Zealand and Europe and South Africa and a lot of places in North America. So we are all operating distributed as well. But yeah, the contact form on our website is certainly a good way to get all of us.
Awesome. Excuse me. Let's go to a very quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll have some fun. We'll run Jacques through the very famous crypto conversation hot take round. Back in one moment.
In today's crypto market, the team at Brave New Coin are the sector's leading builders of custom crypto indices. BNC's powerful indexing engine draws on Brave New Coin's premium data to calculate high-frequency intraday and end-of-day indices for a wide range of index products. BNC's custom indices help you to gain exposure to the crypto assets class and track your performance against the market without having to become a stock picker. Brave New Coin's custom indices team delivers experienced consultancy, premium data, and trusted calculation. Contact BNC today to find out more.
All right, we are back, and I'm with Jacques Swanepoel. Jacques is the CTO at Seal Storage Technology, which we have been learning all about today. Cloud storage experts, really. Yeah. And well, Jacques, I like to finish each podcast with a very quick round of rapid fire crypto conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
It sounds exciting.
Sounds exciting. Just going to run some questions at you, Jacques. Just want your kind of honest, rapid fire answers, hot take style, I suppose. Question one for you is, Jacques, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
Well, for me personally, especially from a consensus mechanism perspective, again, like how Filecoin operates, I really feel that's a good way to drive adoption in the future. In the interim, networks do have to start somewhere. We gotta kind of crawl, walk, run, basically. And proof of work was certainly a good way to get going and prove that a solution is working. Prove that blockchain is a viable solution. From that perspective, Bitcoin certainly makes sense as a starting point. But over the years, I do kind of see other networks catching up and maybe even passing Bitcoin.
Very well, yes, makes sense to me, Jacques. Thank you for that. What would you say then is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
Well, I mean, it's definitely in the future. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I'm old enough to have lived through the .com era and all of that fun stuff. But out of those things, we really got some useful solutions, right? eBay and PayPal and yeah, some of the other companies certainly blew up. That wasn't kind of at the right place at the right time. But as new technologies come along, a lot of people try new things, and a lot of things fail, but some fundamental things do actually survive. And looking at something at Filecoin where it's solving a real world problem, it's actually delivering a real chargeable solution to customers that they can rely on. Then from that kind of common sense perspective, it seems like this is definitely something that can be one of the winners in this whole process.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Jacques, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. So, with that in mind, anything you like, but maybe decentralized cloud storage. What does it start to look like in 10 years' time?
Yeah, no, 10. I'm trying to think. 2 or 5 years out at the moment. 10 years from now. At that point in time, Filecoin probably wants to be, probably in the thousands of exabytes of data that's stored on a network, which would certainly be significant, and probably have 10% or more of the global storage capacity that's being used on the network. That would certainly be an exciting goal to achieve in 10 years.
I like it. All right. Well, the flip side of that is a quote by William Gibson, Jacques, who, of course, famously said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. Can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people aren't aware of it?
Yeah, so I think, and it's probably related to S-curves and all of those solutions as well, where first couple of years you really struggle to get to 1%, but then kind of once you go 2, 3, 4%, and then the S-curve takes off, and in the next couple of years the whole thing runs up all the way to 90%. My thought process is look at all the blockchain technologies out there, try to understand which ones are actually delivering a real service or solve a real world problem, and those are definitely going to be the winners. For a lot of people think that blockchain is just a fad that's going to pass by. Definitely not. It's a fundamental technology. It solves a lot of real issues and problems especially in the enterprise world. And if you do find the solutions that can drive adoption, those are good ones to consider.
Absolutely. All right, time to close this out. Jacques, finally, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
For sure, The Matrix. And it's more of a documentary than a movie.
Yeah, and by the Matrix, I assume you mean the original Matrix film?
Yes, yep. Well, I mean, the trilogy was good, but yes, the original one was certainly the foundational movie, but I like the whole trilogy.
And I love that you describe it as a documentary.
Yes.
Very accurate. All right. Hey, this has been fun, Jacques. I've very much enjoyed talking to you. Close us out by telling the people where they can go. Do you have a Twitter account that people can follow you on? And of course, again, where they should go to learn more about seal storage technology.
Yeah, no, for sure. We're on Twitter. At Seal Storage is our handle on Twitter. And we actually follow quite a few significant people in the Web3 ecosystem there. So if you follow us, you'll kind of get some of those news as well. We do repost a lot of useful things, not just our own stuff, but important things in the Web3 space as well. We repost on our channel. So it's kind of a good way to keep your eye on what's going on Web3 distributed storage is following at Seal Storage. And again, anybody interested to learn more what we're doing, or they have a use case that they have some data that they want to store with us, again, we have a contact form on our website, sealstorage.io, that they can certainly reach out to us.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jacques. All the best, and bye for now.
Thank you, Andy.
All right, there you go. That was Jacques from Seal Storage on Filecoin storing. Yeah, lots of data, especially data from the likes of CERN and US Berkeley, conducting, of course, exotic physics experiments. And yeah, Large Hadron Collider. Haven't really heard much about what they've been up to lately. I guess it's still going. Yeah, but shout out to Jacques. Thank you for coming on the show. And yeah, always good when people go for the first Matrix film. And I did enjoy Jacques describing it as a documentary. Is that really what it's all about? Is that what's going on? Are we in a simulation? Possibly. Maybe. The thing is, if anyone's going to find definitive proof that it is all just a simulation and we don't, do we really exist? Or is it all an illusion? More accurately, is it all just a simulation? Well, who's going to find out? It's going to be people like CERN and experiments such as those made possible like the Large Hadron Collider. So that's just a nice way of tying things together at the end of the show. I think, yeah, better leave it there. Thank you for listening, team. Don't forget to subscribe to the Crypto Conversation in whatever podcast app you are using. Give us a 5-star rating. Give us a review. All that good stuff. Thanks for listening, team. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin.